Hello and welcome to the Georgia's Live Podcast. I am your host, Travis Smith. The Georgia's Live Podcast is the official podcast of Georgia's Majestic Lounge, a music venue located on Dixon Street in Fayetteville, Arkansas. You can go online to georgiaslive.com to see what concerts are happening there, as well as purchase tickets for those concerts. And you can follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Georgia's Majestic Lounge and on Twitter at Georgia's Majestic. What's up, everyone? Travis here with the Georgia's Live Podcast, back with another episode. Today, I'm talking with Zach and Darian at Buffalo Drum Company. If you guys don't know about Buffalo Drum Company, they make super legit drum kits based out of Northwest Arkansas here. I've known Zach basically my whole life. I actually met him while his siblings were going to my mother's childcare, and he was actually there. And we kind of talk about this story a little bit to where he started playing drums and stuff like that. But super nice people. It's really hard to find custom drum shops around if you're a drummer. They're really non-existent to where we live, and we'll dive in a little bit to where there might be some throughout the Midwest. But when I was growing up reading like Modern Drummer magazine and stuff like that, you would read in the back and see where all the custom drum shops are throughout the United States. And to know that we have one here in Northwest Arkansas is pretty cool. Zach has played with many bands. Most of the bands that he's played with are kind of staples in that genre for being some of the most awesome bands around town. So super pumped about having them back on the podcast. We've had them on before, but they're always doing things, so it's always good to have them back on. Here's Zach and Darian with the Buffalo Drum Company on the Georgia's Live Podcast. Back on the Georgia's Live Podcast, round two, Buffalo Drum Company. We have Darian and Zach here.
Evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good
or
evening.
Daytime, whatever time you're listening.
Hey, what time is it?
Did you say good evening?
Yeah, I guess it's any time. Yes,
Yeah.
I said good evening.
Good day.
Yeah, good day to you all, people.
Welcome back. We're here in the shop. My first time over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool over here. You weren't joking about the Willy Wonka setup that you have here with the.
Yeah, man. It's difficult to describe to people when we're. Like when we met with people at the studio, what was that, like 6 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to explain this place to people that don't get drums or don't play the drums or have never been in a workshop environment or anything. I'm like, I don't know, it's just like a magic wonderland of cool tools and drums, and drummers are excited about it, and people that have shops, makers are excited about it, but people that aren't affiliated with either are like, what is this place? They'll walk in and be like, what are you guys doing in here?
They always say, it smells like wood. I love it. And I don't even realize.
Yeah, there's literally wood everywhere. There's evidence. And then you have kind of here in the middle, you've got some shells that you have that we have, at the first of this, on the YouTube for this video, you'll be able to see it the first. Kind of explain these pipes. You have what looks like big kind of PVC piping that's going up over.
It is PVC. It is a dust collection system. So that blue thing over there near the garage door, as all of you can see right now, is a dust collection unit or a giant vacuum, basically. And we have all these pipes in here with what are called blast gates, so we can direct all of the flow to each tool, so we can get dust collection at each tool, and so it doesn't get super duper dusty in here, because otherwise it would be impossible to finish. It's almost still too dusty to finish in here. We have to kind of stop everything we're doing for a day, let the dust settle, and then come in here and start doing our finishing work. So we try to batch everything out, really. So we end up with however many shells are on order, all in the same process, so we can finish them all at the same time rather than stopping, But that'll all be taken care of once we get the spray booth finished out. We're still in construction.
So Buffalo Drum Company, I guess we should talk about exactly what you guys are doing here. If nobody listened to the first time that you guys were on, let's kind of talk about Buffalo Drum Company and what you are.
Well, you take it, Darian.
Okay, so we build stave shells. We machine all of our hardware in-house. Hardware is high-grade aluminum, brass, and steel now as well.
Let's start with, we build drums.
We build drums,
and we work on drums here.
Yes.
We cater to the local drummer community as far as regular drum shop goes. People can come here and get their, kind of like, you were my first customer, actually. I think we talked about that in the last podcast.
From drag, was it the bass drum that dragged behind the trailer?
Yeah, so we do.
It's one of my favorite stories to tell.
When we first started, that was crazy, man. That was so bad. When we first started, we thought we were going to be a drum shop that just repaired and restored old drums, but her and I got really, really excited about building drums. And I had already kind of started dabbling in it quite a bit by myself. And then when she came on board, we were like, let's do this. And so we started building shells together. And that sort of snowballed into what you see right now. About a year ago, we started really hitting it hard, prototyping all of the hardware for our drums. Like Darian was saying earlier, we're in hardware mode right now, so that's why she went straight to hardware. That's where her head's at.
But you say you just now added a new
Steel. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As the, it's just, steel's harder than most. So
Yeah. We started with aluminum because it's approachable with smaller machine tools. But as we scaled up and started getting bigger machine tools and getting deeper into machining, we decided to go to steel because it's longevity and there's more you can do with it. You can mess with it chemically and turn it black and things like that. It's just all around a better metal for what we do for a functioning part. Like lugs or throws or bass drum beaters or things like that.
I know it's not something that you guys are always doing, but whenever somebody has like a drum set refinished or you redo a kit, like kind of talk about what is involved in that, because I've seen some of the kits you've done, like the one at East Hall. I've recorded on that one several times. It's just, it brings out a new
definitely
life
I
to
mean
it.
that's my favorite thing to do, and that's my favorite thing to do when it comes to drum shop stuff, like the drum repair stuff. I like to bring those old kits, like those old 60s Ludwig kits, the Keystones and stuff like that, Sky Blue Pearl and things like that, that are really sought after. I like to breathe them, or give new life to them and kind of make them new, I guess you can say. I don't want to add any of my own touch to something that Ludwig's already done, but I want to bring back what it looked like brand new. And most people don't really want to or don't have the skill set or want to learn how to take the time and refinish a kit like that. But if you're brave enough, you can do it. I mean, it took me probably a year to actually even be brave enough to bring some super high grit sandpaper and start wet sanding a Sky Blue Pearl shell, let alone putting new edges on it.
I was like cleaning hardware with Coca-Cola, and it was everything I could do to like do that. I saw it online.
Oh man,
it worked. It did it, and then I cleaned it off.
It worked.
Is that a bad thing to do?
I mean, probably.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It makes me just scared
It
to drink
ate the rust.
Coca-Cola, I think.
It ate the rust off of it.
I guess
You definitely don't
probably
go buy a
cleaned, You
Coke
probably
after
cleaned
that.
it after.
Yeah,
I'm
I
guessing.
cleaned
Okay.
it, and because dude, it would have been
I'm just
like
envisioning
sticky.
a super sticky.
Yeah. No, I put them on and then had to take them back off and clean them on. So like it was sticky, but it cleaned the crap out of the rims and stuff. It was perfect.
We use some professional cleaning products when we do
Sprite?
those kinds of things.
Sprite.
Yeah, Sprite.
We keep it clear.
We actually usually stick to Diet Coke. That's really our jam. Because the aspartame doesn't really make it as sticky as the sugar.
That's like why they make it. So do you? So how'd you get into this? Like,
Oh man, I got drugged straight into it at first.
It's my fault.
trying to find somebody that makes drums, and you finally found someone.
Finally
exactly
found me.
seeking everything I've ever been looking for. We ran a restaurant together, and I was the general manager of Woodstone for a long time. And
One of the
so
best pizzas in all the land.
Oh yeah, we're actually about to reopen the downtown.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Me and my wife talk about that like once a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go there. She's like, I don't think they're open right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
Up,
middle
down.
of February sometime, hopefully.
Open for carryout though, and delivery.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. Oh, delivery.
Yeah.
Oh,
delivery
even better.
now. They
Yeah.
just added delivery.
Okay, we don't have to plug Woodstone anymore.
Jeremy Gothrop and Clayton, I love you so much.
Autumn
We,
harvest.
Dad and Dad.
Hashtag autumn harvest.
Hapa. So I was the general manager, so I kind of came on as office stuff. My mom's always been, very handy and had lots of tools, and so did my grandfather. He was a woodworker, so it kind of came naturally to hang out in the shop, and just the obsessive, perfectionist nature of building drums really just took to me. And I was excited, and it was exciting, and so we got it right, not long, right around that time was about the time we moved into this shop and upgraded some tools, and it was just a really exciting time. And then, me being the office person was quickly faded.
Another less glamorous way to put it is she walked into the drum shop and she was like, "Oh my God, I have to help you. This is not okay."
This is not okay.
No,
you can't eat Taco Bell anymore.
Yeah, Taco Bell and milkshakes.
Was that hard for you, that transition of you know,
hobby
whenever
to
you're
job.
starting a business and then you're running the business and then you're in charge of
I mean, we're still
much you're
we're
making
still,
still
we're
really
still
hard,
dealing
yeah.
with that, man. You know, there's not like a reference. There are like small business references that we can, you know, go to kind of help us figure out infrastructure and how you know, how we should be charging for things and how we should do transactions and things
Sure.
like that. You know, there's endless information online. However, this is a very niche thing, you know.
I mean, this is
instrument building.
craftsmanship that
Yeah.
we've had to learn. Neither of us had. I mean, what we.
I didn't have-
Neither of us
yeah.
had touched a table saw 4 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
You know, or
Yeah.
very little.
Very little.
Yeah. So.
And obsession is really the root of this entire.
That's crazy,
operation, you know.
the quality of instruments you're making.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Considering how fast that is. Because when I tell people, I'm like, my buddy makes drums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go, oh, really? And
Yeah.
I'm like real drums.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're going to look at it and you're going to go, oh.
doesn't do it in his
Oh,
garage.
you're like, it's one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like he buys the
One of
parts
those-
and
yeah,
pieces
it's
it
one of those
together.
nerdy ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no.
so
It's not what 90% of the drum companies do around everywhere is call themselves a custom drum company and don't actually make any parts in house. It's just they're a custom assembly company.
Yeah.
Basically.
are there
you know?
many companies like this? Obviously, there's not many in Arkansas, or else we'd
There's
be
none
going.
in
There's none in Arkansas.
There's.
It's hard
Man,
to kind of find.
there's only a handful. I mean, the ones that come to the top of my head are Cherry Hill,
Sugar percussion.
Sugar Percussion, HHG. He builds his own shells and his own hardware. I don't think. Who else that is?
Well, there's like Cask,
Yeah, there's
but they don't
Cask.
build the same way.
Craviotto is like the closest thing as far as the tooling
That's
goes.
CNC,
and how,
isn't it? No,
Craviotto?
that's
no.
something else.
Craviotto's I think they're in.
They're in Nashville now.
They're in Nashville now.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were sold and purchased.
So
there.
they build single ply steam bent drums. So they'll take a board, you know, that's just like maybe 3/4 of an inch thick or so, steam bend it all the way around and glue it, and then they'll throw it on a big lathe like I have over there and machine it. And their drums are very, very beautiful, but
It's just not the same thing.
it's just not the same thing. It's a completely
It's something
different
it's
animal.
something that's achievable for us. We do steam bend here, but
We
steam bending whole boards like that is a particular science.
They would have to tool up, or we would have to tool up differently to do steam bending on that scale, anyways.
Yeah.
And it probably provides a much different sound, I would imagine.
Totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you think about it, just in terms of grain direction, the sound is traveling through the grain of the drum, top to bottom,
In a
which gives
stave
you a lot
drum.
of sensitivity in a stave drum, which are the type of drums we build. And in a steam bent shell, the sound is traveling across grain, and the grain or the wood itself is bent into shape, so it's always stressed out. It doesn't want to be round, you know. You've bent it into that shape, and it always wants to pull apart. So the wood's under stress, and if the wood's under stress, it will take away from the resonance. But we're also talking about like very small amounts. So I'm not saying Craviotto or Cask or any of those people have bad drums, because they're all incredible drums and craftsmen. But it's just a different way. This is the way that we chose. This is the way that was most approachable for me when I first started. But then I started to kind of take to it, and we made it our own, and we kind of pioneered. I don't want to say pioneered, but we started doing the steam bending with the stave construction, and doing steam bent single ply white oak reinforced re-rings on all of our drums. I kind of brought it back to the old like Ludwig Slinger Lynn style, and then we machined all of that together and turned it into our drums and what you're looking at today. I'm trying to see if we can see one from here.
That cherry
Yeah.
over there.
Did you play an instrument before you kind of got into this and stuff?
Not an instrument. Still don't play an instrument. I know a lot about drums, but
You might know
Still
more
don't.
about drums
I don't
than
have
any
time to learn
non-drummer
drum.
ever.
As soon as I have time to learn how to play, I will learn how to play. But
This is in process here, still in the finishing process, but you can see the steam bent white oak re-rings in there. They're small, they're subtle, but they're there.
Okay. And this is a little, for drummers, this is inside. Kind of explain where that's at.
it's right on the
It's
bearing.
right on the bottom of the bearing edge is a reinforcement ring, on the top and bottom. I'm sure if you go to our Instagram, you can get a better look at what we're looking at here. And then that's a snare. That's actually a Taylor Alderson snare.
Oh, nice.
And this belongs to Darren Novotny. This is his rack tom. This has just got sanding sealer on it, which is why it looks kind of white. And it still needs to be machined in here, but you can get a
But
better
that's what they look like before.
Oh,
We
wow.
just
They look
we
like
cut
before.
the bearing
Okay.
edge.
Yeah, and I've
So.
seen what is it your,
Feel how rigid that is.
Yeah.
holy moly.
Yeah.
That's
It's pretty neat.
a piece of
The
wood.
thing about stave drums is they do get a bad rap because they're built improperly. But when you build them perfectly, the wood's at rest, because if the angle's right, it's not stressing or pulling or pushing
Yeah.
or anything.
If you can think it, this isn't bent into shape. This is all.
You've like
Yeah.
Frankenstein a perfect person.
Yeah.
Almost
Exactly.
into
Now,
a
if the
drum.
angle's off and you forced it into the glue up, and then you have pulling
You'll
and
have,
stressing.
you'll
on the
have
glue
blowout
joint,
eventually.
Eventually, you could have some issues. So you nail the angle, and then the reinforcement rings are just because we like the shells to be thin. So we're looking at like 3/8 thickness.
Yeah,
with
the
about
thinner
an
the
eighth
thinner the
inch.
shell, the
Yeah.
lower the fundamental pitch is going to be, and the better it's going to sound, the more it's going to resonate.
Yeah.
So this is a non-technical question. So to want to geek out on all this stuff, Zach, you have to have some kind of approach to the drums, almost in some kind of like, not a spiritual way, but you feel a certain way about the drums that I bet
Well, I mean,
a drummer feels like. Where do you feel drums has its place in music, and why are the drums so important to you?
Well, it all started at your house, actually. When I was a little kid,
I forget
your
about that.
mother used to babysit me.
Which I didn't tee that up just to like tell a good story.
No, it just reminded me. And your drum set was the first one that I ever touched or played or got to mess around on, And from there, it's just been an obsession my entire life. I grew up in a Pentecostal church where I learned how to play the drums with a band, which I think was really integral. And I kind of learned the drums place within I don't want to say show, but it is kind
It's a
of
very
show.
structured setting.
You know,
almost.
if I started playing too loud or getting too excited, the pastor's wife on the piano would look over at me and be like, "What are you doing?" And that kind of taught me where I should sit in the mix, I guess you could say, and be a performer. But
Something a lot of people don't get
absolutely,
sometimes until they start playing with the band when they're in their 20s or something like that.
And it's embarrassing for those people. I'm glad I learned young. But as far as drums go, I mean, I've always been the drummer friend. I've always been the guy that has the drum set that plays in the drums in the bands. In my little
All of
circle
the
of
bands.
friends and all of the bands. Yeah, and it's just been one of those ongoing obsessions. I dabbled in modifying drum kits when I was fresh out of high school. It was actually that brown one up there. It belonged to Nathan Wilkins, who's in a band called Hikes. That's actually really awesome. But he plays guitar now. But anyways, that was the first one I ever messed around with, and I got excited about it then, but I didn't really pursue it from there, just because life gets in the way of college and jobs and stuff. Didn't finish college.
You're busy
obviously,
being a
but-
chef boy.
Yeah, and then I decided to become a cook, as I was really interested in that, and spent many years pursuing that. And I think bringing those sorts of practices and methodology from the kitchen,
Habits, cleanliness.
habits and cleanliness. Keeping up with yourself. I think bringing that from the kitchen into the wood shop kind of happened effortlessly. It's something. They're very similar things. You're trying to produce something that's better than the sum of its parts, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I
Raw
learned that
material.
stuff at Sonic. Working
Yeah.
at Sonic.
Yeah.
I worked every job at Sonic
Absolutely.
before I left
Yeah.
there, and it's like,
Mozzarella sticks are way
get
better
it.
Yeah.
after you cook them.
Yeah.
If the cook is good,
Yeah.
and then this person's good, and this person's solid, everything goes
Yeah,
better.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say we're perfect by any means. I mean, we've been struggling. Obviously,
It's been
through
a tough
COVID.
year.
It's been a tough year for us.
Yeah.
There was a few months there where we didn't get anything at all. No interact. And that was partly because we were almost paralyzed on the couch. The world was exploding. And the Black
Yeah,
Lives Matter
our
movement
industry shut
started
down.
Also, yeah, and it was nuts, man. Our entire business model is based off the prospect of musicians having extra cash,
Which is terrifying.
which is
Yeah.
terrifying, And there wasn't COVID relief for a business like this. We don't really have employees, It's just us two for now. But most of the relief seemed to be just for businesses that had employees, which I'm happy that they got a bailout. But It's
been
I
scary,
didn't really know
like,
who to call, and there wasn't anybody for me to call, really.
especially with like with Georgia's, with us having, I was doing graphics and stuff, and it was just one day. It's like, I
all
guess
of your
we're going
jobs,
home.
all
Yeah.
55 of your jobs
Yeah.
went down the
I mean,
drain.
I work in events.
Yeah.
Big.
I don't have
events,
any-
so,
yeah,
I
most
was
of the
like, I
jobs-
don't.
Yeah.
It was not only that this seemed to just like, at that point, after still being in our beginning years, it was just like, oh, okay, this is going to be hard to handle, and then watching a world that I know and love explode has been difficult.
It's been
It's inauguration day, though.
yeah.
It
So
is.
everything's going to be okay, I think.
Yeah, starts today.
Just remembered.
So it's been it's definitely been different. It's been interesting watching people, people watching on the streaming and the digital. I just now saw last night before I went to bed. I saw where I believe Live Nations is kind of acquired a company that's going to be doing with the dudes from Good Charlotte.
Oh, cool.
They started a company doing kind of extra experiences
The
at
brothers?
concerts and
Brothers?
stuff. The Maddens or whatever. Is that right?
The ones with
Owen and
the
Benji?
hair and the face.
Yeah, the guys, the dudes.
The dudes.
The ones.
The guys that it's
Good
the two
Charlotte.
guys
The
from
Good
Good
Charlotte
Charlotte that you
dudes.
don't remember. They would it's definitely the main dudes. So they have this company though that's part of like a fully interactive experience where you have like an extra ticket and stuff.
Sure.
Mhm.
Where you get like another experience and stuff, and seeing these things come out and stuff, it's been real interesting. But I feel like
seeing how everybody's dealing with it and dealing with it creatively has been really, really neat.
I think live events will come back.
Mm-hmm.
It's
People are going to, I have faith.
yeah, and it's
Because
been-
I love it so much that people will be craving it. You know?
Absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
and I know I do, but I know that people, just the like twinkly lights festival, being outside, being inside,
Mhm.
whatever it is,
Human interaction is just
Yeah.
something I didn't know that I needed until I
Yeah.
couldn't have it.
Watching live music is visceral, and
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
to feel it.
When
when
know?
you talk to somebody you haven't seen in a long time in a while, and you're like,
Yeah.
"This has been awesome," and all you did is really just kind of
Yeah.
talk for like
Yeah.
5 minutes.
There
You're
are there are like 15 people that I only see like in a field, like
Like, I
during
for-
roots or during other things that I that I do, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Hi, we're in the field again," and they're like, "This is awesome," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm running to get
yeah,
someone
like I
played."
would see people, working up at the amp for a little bit too for those shows. It was just running into people, and it's impossible for you to remember everybody you know.
Yeah. Sure.
But then you start seeing
Especially,
people you
yeah.
forgot about, and then you're like,
Yeah.
you forget that. It's easy to just sit at home and get stuck in your stuff sometimes, but like getting out and talking to people.
Get stuck in your shop and don't ever come out into the world. We were hermits far before the
Yeah,
COVID crisis
social
hit.
distancing was
Yeah, before social distancing was the thing. We had to buckle down. It was either buckle down and not see any of our friends for a little while, or go out and party and just let this die.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen.
You can't out party
Not
COVID.
now. No, no way.
Like it's
Jesus.
yeah, you'd still be going. You're almost a year into it.
Yeah, our good buddy Eli Barrett, who used to play for White Mansion, he actually moved here the week that quarantine or like lockdown
like March
happened.
15th.
Yeah, he moved here, and he started setting up everything in the here in the drum shop to give lessons here, which he does now. But he moved here, and it was lockdown, and we just locked down with him. And we just partied with him and his girlfriend Shelby, and they were really nice. But
Yeah.
it was just us four,
Yeah.
like every once in a while, and that was all the human interaction we got. We'd put like a mattress in front of the door and just like hang out in here, and in the middle of the night because we were bored. There's no, it
We
felt
did
like
we did rebuild
the beginning of a zombie movie.
giant
I drove by here sometimes
laid-
at weird hours.
Oh,
and, and
we're here
not to
late.
be like a creep.
Yeah,
but
well,
I'll
you're
just
a
kind of
creep.
be like, let's see who's over there, and I'll see like y'all that'll be in here. I'm like, cool, and then I'll leave because I
Is it
don't
raining?
go anywhere.
Yeah, looks like it.
Huh? Haven't seen rain in a minute. Been snowing lately.
Huh.
Oh,
Hope
remember it
everybody's
was supposed to
not
rain
winning.
and
Yeah,
it
like a-
snowed for an entire day.
I know, that was crazy. Yeah, do you remember the snow the other day? We're getting really off subject.
No, you're fine. We have a weather portion of this podcast. We go to sports here in just a minute, so I hope you've been watching. Dun,
No,
dun,
who's
dun,
sports?
dun.
It's probably about 40 degrees outside, and we've got a light breeze.
it's not bad. Zach, so how many bands have you played in other than
Oh,
half
God.
of them? The other half that I haven't been in?
Well,
Oh,
you just did
man.
the Grape Dancer album. That's
Yeah,
that's cool to
that's
talk
adding
about.
adding one to the list. Yeah, we just recorded the Grave Dancer album here in the shop. I don't know, man. Probably 20, 30.
I think
don't know.
there's bands that
There's a few, like Thunder Lizards, Archbuilders, Cowards. Those were like my main three that I spent,
everybody
cut
in
my
those
teeth.
bands. You
Yeah.
guys, those bands were
created
so good.
a whole lot of other bands too. And
Yeah,
a whole lot of other
exactly.
projects came out of that, which is really cool. I love my friends for that.
Whenever I think of, from my angle of, I know everybody.
Mhm.
So I know this genre of music, this group of friends, and this group
Absolutely.
of friends, and everybody kind of, few people mingle, everybody's kind of friends with everybody.
Yeah.
And so it's been like fun, like at Huntsville Studios, like
Yeah.
coming out of there, and it's like I'm walking down and there's like 6 bands practicing everywhere.
Every single
Yeah.
one of
and
them.
every single person knows each other,
Yeah.
That's like the community of
The community definitely didn't die with COVID.
It's-
Everybody's
No.
still here waiting. And I think we're gonna have some really awesome shows and things happening when it.
People are going to write
starts
some
back
really
up.
great music.
Yeah,
If they're- I'm
I
sure
think
they already
people have been
are.
writing really great music.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for the COVID albums to drop because I know there's been some bands, just sitting on some material that they've been.
I have got leaps and bounds better at guitar since
Yeah?
the pandemic. Just
That's
sitting
awesome.
there, and then I watched like a video that was something like, "If you know this will unleash your whatever."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, right."
Yeah.
Like I make some of these videos too. Let me see what's going on here. Let me see if it got me. And sure enough, I was sitting there and I'm like, "Wait, I see where it all
Yeah.
comes together." And then
Yeah.
I was like sitting there.
Just like when you started to learn how to play the drums.
It's like I got over that first beginner spot to where
Mhm.
it opens up the next door.
Yeah, the unnatural feeling of actually playing the instrument is worn off, and now you're starting to actually be able to do it.
Like I heard
rather than-
something and found it on
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
I still don't know what chords there are. Like G, I kind of get those, but I'm having to memorize where they're at. But then you go up in the scales,
Mhm.
but I don't know where to find it. But I can find the scale.
That's an endless rabbit hole.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like, I'll probably just
don't
need
feel
to-
bad.
All right, good. So I'm
It's like drum building a
It's
little
just like-
bit.
I mean, think about like rudiments and stuff like that. That's
then I go sit down and do some drum rudiments, and I'm
yeah,
like,
feel
"You're
better- feel better
good.
about
Yeah.
yourself, Yeah.
You're fine.
Fine.
You'll be good." You
I
still
started to
have the-
try to learn how to play mandolin one time. Whew. You talk about a rabbit hole. That is a weird, really cool instrument.
It's, I don't get whenever you go from instrument to instrument, like a stringed instrument, to something else where the whole concept of the instrument is completely different.
Yeah.
You're talking to a
Like-
non-instrument player.
Darian does. She's gonna start learning how to play the drums soon, but
Yeah.
she doesn't play any instruments.
Maybe this year.
Her
This
brain,
year's
her
the-
brain
we're-
is her instrument.
Yeah, we're looking real bright this year, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll find some time this year for me
Yeah,
to play.
that'd
some.
be
Probably
great.
not.
You got drums around to play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I was
there's a couple.
thinking, I came in here and you had made a joke where, are you just listening to a drum beat? Were you
Yeah.
listening to that? Is it a Nate Smith
It's
album?
a Nate Smith Pocket Change. Is
Okay.
the album that I was listening to.
Um,
Sweet album, full of cool beats.
And it's just beats.
Just beats.
Yeah.
There might. I think that the album is only just solo drums. I don't
think it
that
is,
there-
'cause
I
I
don't think there's
remember-
any. His other things have accompaniments for sure, and he plays obviously for.
He just really
for-
doesn't need them.
No, he's one of those drummers that you can just listen to by himself, and that's a rare talent. That's a rare thing.
He's the only one.
Yeah.
Whenever I was first listening to that, I was like listening for something else, and I was kind of skipping through, and then I'm like, let me just listen.
Yeah.
2.5 minutes, I bet it comes in, and then next thing I know, I'm like 8 songs in. It's
Yeah.
just good.
It's good grooving music.
Yeah.
We're either hitting that or like lo-fi hip hop in here or something of the
Tom-ish.
sort.
So talking about-
Tom-ish, something like that.
I'm a big, we were talking about Jay Dilla.
Mhm.
And like Detroit production and stuff,
Mhm.
and you were saying Nate Smith actually did some of the drums for that.
From what I understand, Nate Smith was friends with Jay Dilla, or like they ran in the same circles, and Jay Dilla had used a lot of his beats as samples. Like from what I heard, he went to the studio and recorded the samples for Jay Dilla as that he used in his beats. Those really like slurred pocket beats that are Yeah, exactly. Right in the edge of those pockets. Yeah,
No quantizing and
He's
stuff.
kind of the drummer that I don't want to say started. Most Def and Jay Dilla are the two that I would say kind of started.
It's almost
playing
like he
around with
went
that.
in there and he kind of like, who's
Yeah.
this? And then it came back, and then
He's
it
so good.
blew
he's
up,
able
and then
to
he's
play
like,
off the beat,
Yeah.
on beat.
yeah. And I've seen people. It made a style, and
totally did.
and that
Yeah.
type of hip hop style made its way into like the Funky Knuckles doing
Mhm.
like funk jazz fusion and
Yeah.
stuff like
We
that.
Oh, I
all
love it.
like a Hinarosa.
It's a type of groove that's
Yeah.
that's
Hinarosa is a band out of Tulsa,
Mhm.
and they when
They're awesome.
we first saw them, a guy named Jake Lynn was the drummer. He actually plays for Jason Boland now. We're working on a drum kit for him, but he he brought that style. That was the first time I'd have seen somebody play that style, and I
It
was
doesn't
like,
come around Arkansas very
not
often.
often. You know, we're not very. I mean, we're hip, but
Well, there's like 5 of us that play drums with a lot of bands around town,
yeah,
and if we don't
true.
do
There's
it, you're not getting it.
Far less drummers than there are guitarists in this town.
I think there are people that dabble in drums, but
There
people
are,
who
and
can
there's
pick
a
up
lot of
and do
secret drummers
anything
around
is-
here that I've
yeah.
found that I didn't know just in the scene. There's a lot of people like older dudes and stuff like that.
We have
that
a
are
bunch
into
of
cool stuff.
older,
Yeah.
awesome people.
Really
and just
good.
and people that just move here and don't have friends but are drummers and stuff like that, and they're not in the scene at all, so nobody knows anything about them.
I'm always trying to find those people and pluck
Yeah.
them out and tell
Yeah.
them what bands
Yeah.
are looking for people.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Absolutely.
hard. I mean,
It is
we
hard.
talk about the interconnectedness of like our Fayetteville, but that's not so
It's not-
achievable to someone who just moves here.
Yeah.
It's not like you can find it.
It's
No,
easy for
it's
us.
Like
because
you have
we
to like
live
work
here.
in a restaurant or
Yeah, if you live
man,
here,
work at a bar. Like
my mom's childcare.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like we're all like,
It's just like driving around
Work
in
at a
Fayetteville.
bar
You
or
don't
something.
know unless you know. Like
Yeah.
you have to drive around in Fayetteville for a while to know how to get around. Just like
I was
just like
miserable
the
in high
people
school
this
here,
town.
and there was
Yeah.
like the music hall was a thing, and I just never.
I
found,
just
I
love
never
how
found
this
it.
community is so welcome. As long as you come to it and you want to do something for yourself, like
Yeah.
everybody's gonna, oh, this is where you go.
Yeah,
this
as
is
long
where
as you come
go.
at it respectfully,
Yeah.
and you know, don't try to make too big of a splash, because then people will just shit all over you here. But in a good way, you know, like that.
Yeah, you can't come here and say I'm
yeah.
gonna be doing this. So
Yeah,
y'all better watch out.
Yeah, we
It's
need
gonna
those.
Be me.
You know, we need those hard moves.
But I think whenever I always think of the time whenever I did a Black Flag show and they got off the bus or whatever and they hit the bike trail and they went and then they came back and I was talking to them and they're like, this is like the only town on the tour we went to where people are like not bashing their town. They're actually trying to be like,
Yeah.
you should go eat at Hammond Trees.
Yeah,
You
this
should try
place
out
is
our
awesome."
bike trail. They're like,
Yeah.
you guys are actually like the town you live in. This is
Yeah.
very rare. And
When I
so-
talk to someone who's from out of town, I'm like, welcome.
Welcome to our.
We're all advocates
like-
for this
yeah.
place.
My little
You
sister,
must love
like,
it
Give
too.
them
little
like an
sister just
experience
moved
Fable
here,
sticker
yeah.
and
Yeah.
a keep Fable funky sticker. And they're like, what is
Exactly.
this?
We're like, no, this is the greatest place on earth. I promise.
My little sister just moved here from Florida, and I'm just like, welcome to the land of milk and honey. You know, like this is. I mean, you wouldn't expect it, but Fayetteville really is a super cool town, and it has a lot of opportunity that a lot of other big cities do not. You know, you can kind of be a bigger fish in this town, and have access to resources that you would spend, you know, so much longer trying to find or develop in a bigger town. You know, you can't just infiltrate a scene in Chicago or something like that, or like, you know, get a bunch of friends super fast. There are people there. They're not as nice, but there are people there.
They're not as nice.
But if you come to a place like Fayetteville that has culture, you know, and there's
Yeah.
cool people here, you can just show up and be like, hey, I'm kind of weird and I play music, and everybody's like, dope, us too.
Yeah, it's cool. It's that I know that everything I do has been shaped because of where I live,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not so much because I tried to force it. It's like
Yeah.
I would never be in a place where I felt I would, you know, like doing a podcast for this venue and stuff, and being able to talk to the people I talk to. It's
Sure.
like such a cool, fortunate situation.
Yeah, it's
that
not
I'm-
something that people just get to do. Just like, you know, having a drum company is not something that people just get to do unless you live in a place like Fayetteville where your communities will support you. You know, like I said, you were the first customer. I just posted a status or something like saying something like, "Hey, I'll fix your drums. Come to my garage." You know, I don't know.
I didn't
how it
think
worked.
you'd be able to fix that. I was like, there's
He showed up, and I was like, "Wow, great! And this is what I
My
have
whole
to
kit's
establish my
ruined 'cause of
entire
this."
career upon." Right now.
Yeah, dragging a bass drum, basically what happened was U-Haul busted open and I had hooked my bungee cord up to my kick drum and it dragged it all the way from Kansas City to Bella Vista. And it
That's
was
so
a
gnarly.
22 by 18 inch with 18 inches deep or 22 inches deep?
22. No, it's 18 inches.
18 inches deep. And so we had to shave it down because it had dragged. And I heard it as we were pulling into Bella
Yeah, the
Vista.
corner started dragging, and it drug all the way from
Yeah.
the corner, so it was all lopsided.
It was weird looking.
Now what is it, like a 22 by like 10, something like that? It's a real cute one.
Yeah, it's
We were able to save it. I
It-
mean, it's
yeah,
still a
it's-
bass drum. I'd love to hear it now.
dude, it fits in like a three
It's
and
a
a
little
half
slapper.
Might need to check the
3.5
bearing edges on
kit
it
and
again.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. You can fit it right into like a 4-foot road case
Yeah.
with all of the
Yeah,
toms
we're
and the
building-
kick drum and everything.
We're
in
building
it.
see that bass drum over there? That's actually Jake Lynn, the drummer I was just talking about.
Mhm.
We're building that 22 for
Oh
him.
wow, that
It's gonna
little
be part of a
shallow
little
one?
nesting kit.
22
Yeah,
8?
22. Yeah, 8, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
Nesting
so,
kit with concert toms.
yeah.
Other than probably saying that we don't do that, There's right now. What do you think about this? The technology of. I know it takes away most of what makes your drums cool, which is the sound, but like the hybrids with the
hybrids
pads with like a cool shell and stuff like that.
Man, I mean, to each his own. That's if you're into sampling and stuff like that, do it. You know,
'Cause I've been looking
I
at,
wouldn't
like-
I wouldn't buy one of my drums and do that because you'll be paying for a really
frame.
high end shell that you're not ever going to be using. I guess you could say. I would spend your money elsewhere, like maybe on the hardware that you're going to use to make that happen. But they're fine. You know, I don't have anything against them. I would love to have an electric drum set at my house. So
Yeah.
or at my apartment.
Because I've got these pads, these old pads that I just hook into the sample pad. And I was like, man.
I like the hybrid setups a lot. You're talking about like I thought you were talking
Part
about
acoustic.
putting like. I thought you were putting like mesh heads onto.
I am talking about that a little bit, but I don't think of that in the sense of
I've got a good.
I can't
buddy.
think of many gigs I'd want to go play just an electronic kit that looks like an
Yeah.
acoustic kit.
Yeah.
But I've seen where like V drums are now doing like the smaller shell that kind of look more like a drum kit
Yeah.
to make you feel okay.
I
about
like
playing
I like the
electronic
hybrid
drums live.
setups. You know, I like having the acoustic sound and being able to sample. Like, there's a really good drummer here in this town for a band called Modeling. His name's Ryan Brogan. He's
done a great job with his sample
he's
pad
super,
stuff
I mean,
he does.
all those they're all prodigies. But
Yeah.
I used to work with Ryan actually at the School of Rock, and we would go back and forth beats all day long. That was like our favorite game. We'd run in my room and be like, "I got another one for you." But he has a really cool hybrid setup that I really like. I really enjoy the way he approaches it. He doesn't really use too much of it. You use hybrid stuff too. You use beats live all the time.
That's pretty
Or
much
not beats, but samples live all the time.
Yeah, I love making my
He
own
did
samples.
that with Lucio for. That was one time.
Yeah.
One time that I saw you with that. Setup.
Yeah, we did. We were in a band called Galaxy Tour Guides.
That's what it was,
And I
yeah.
did drums, and then Jared played keys. What we'd do is, and Lucio would be the MC. So we know that he's going to be able to like spit all over stuff, and that's fine. So we got to come up with like a full sounding thing that sounds cool.
You did. You pulled it off.
Well,
Well,
Jared's
It was
like
cool.
keyboard sound. We're like, what's
Yeah.
the fattest
Yeah.
sound that gets like
Just
a
layers
groove
and
and then
layers,
a layer of something?
Yeah.
And then basically just coming up with the groove. But I started getting into it was like a space themed. So we would get into the sounds of NASA was released, where they like, here's the sound of Jupiter, and then like they took something that's not a sound and turned it into a sound,
Yeah.
and then told us that's what it was. So I downloaded it. And then we would manipulate it and put it in a key, and then kind of
That's the
have
part
it
of
be
sampling that I
intros and
like is being
stuff.
able to
soundscapes.
being able to utilize
Sound design?
natural sound or analog, I don't know, acoustic sound.
Yeah.
And use it digitally, with a sample pad or something.
My
like that.
approach is not to try to make it sound like a processed pop song, but more so like if it's a song about the city,
Yeah.
maybe have the
city-
sound of New York
city
City in the
noises,
first,
yeah.
like meow,
Sure.
Yeah.
with like buses and stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
stuff to kind of just things to add a little bit more to it.
Definitely a little special
Dynamics.
sauce.
There's little. I mean, you just did a bunch of.
Yeah,
different, like, percussion
on the
and
Grave Dancer album,
auxiliary.
there's a song called "The Devil's Garden" that actually ends in a it turns into a metal song. This is a folk album we're talking about, but for the first half of the song, I'm using like broken glass and dropping chains. And what are the other sounds?
You
I was
broke some like
banging-
lettuce heads.
Yeah, broke some lettuce heads to make it sound like human flesh ripping. And
Oh, yeah.
sawing a bone in half, things like that. And I put together kind of a. It was more or less
Is that the
inspired by
song
like
with the
Money. It was
timpani,
more
too?
it was inspired by like Money.
like Money sound
Floyd.
effects
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah.
It was. That's how the beats all set up.
Or movie
it's,
sound
It's all
effects.
different sounds, but it was pretty neat, man. Yeah.
Are you guys still doing some stuff that's not drums, like doing some extra woodworking stuff in different
We
areas?
tend to. So the other side of things is called the other company that we run is called Buffalo Creative, and we don't really. I mean, we're almost solely focused on drums.
We're finding that we're tooled to make drums, and
So we should just make drums.
Yeah, and it was
Cool.
nice to have those projects. And
we like to
and
take every
being-
once in a while.
Yeah.
We like to take them on just for like if it's a particularly cool thing. Like if Onyx Coffee Labs called us up and was like, "Hey, we need a giant drum to cover this, to shroud this thing on our roaster," and we were like, "Dope, let's do
There's
that."
some things that are like right in
Yeah.
your
cool,
wheelhouse.
we're like, yeah,
They're
absolutely, we
great
should do
learning
that.
experiences.
Yeah.
They make us better woodworkers and,
Yeah,
and
better
in turn better
craftsmen.
drum builders.
When you
but-
guys were doing
yeah.
that, I was hoping you were gonna put like some giant lugs or something on there to make
There's
it look
one
like
lug
a
on
giant.
There is one lug on
Okay,
it.
I want it to
We
be
used
like.
the lug as like the seam clasp. It was
Yeah.
pretty
It's
cool.
Like, man, if they throw a snare drum up on there, that's gonna be the
There's
dopest
a
thing
there's
I've
a
ever
there's
seen.
a tom there's a tom on the
snare
top
throw
of
off?
it.
There's a tom on
Yeah.
top
Yeah.
with a lid on it that covers the motor. And
Yeah,
then,
it's pretty neato.
A drum lug.
If you're ever up in Rogers after the pandemic, if you're ever up in Rogers, at the Onyx Coffee Lab, their newest location. Is it their newest location? I guess the Momentary would be their
Is
newest.
that the awesome one?
It's their headquarters. Yeah, the one at
where they're
the
roasting
roastery.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that place is crazy.
If you're ever up there and go up to the bar and look down onto the roasting machine, and you'll see our big. It looks like a drum. It's pretty neat. There's a lot of woodwork on the top of it and stuff. That's pretty cool. That we just kind of went ham on just for fun because it's not a drum, so we can really, we can really play around with it. After you learn how to make perfect wooden circles out of for drums, everything else kind of wanes in comparison as far as difficulty.
Especially if you're making something to make something quieter as opposed to make it louder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're like we make resonant things, and we were
yeah, I was like, a drum's not really gonna help me, but we put sound foam and sound treatment on the inside of it and all of that to quiet it down, and it works seemingly. The roastery, the company that makes the roasters contacted us about it, and they were like, "What's going on? This is awesome." And we were like, "I know, right?"
We do a lot of these.
We were like,
if
"Are
you
we
want.
just going to manufacture
I know, right?
these?" And then we were
Immediately it
like,
was
no,
like,
no.
patents. How do I patent? What do I patent? How do I patent this?
We didn't.
Didn't patent it. So
that dream.
Diedrich, you can have it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Where do you want to send everybody online
to
check out everything?
The Instagram, as of right now, we're still in the middle of building our buffalodrumco.com. That is a domain that you can reach, but it's just going to direct you to our Instagram, which is typically where we do most of our customer interaction and stuff like that. You can reach us at buffalodrumco@gmail.com or Buffalo Drumco on Insta or Facebook. I would suggest Instagram though, just because it's as of right now seeming to be the best medium to.
It's the best medium for what you guys are doing.
What
I
we
would
were
think.
doing. Yeah, we we need the visual for people, and then we just do transactions on Square. So that's really that's how that all works.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a personal experience every time. So.
Yeah, it's not you're not just buying a Pearl kit when you want one of our drums. It's a conversation. It starts with a conversation between usually me and the customer, or Darian and the customer, and figuring out, kind of honing in on what this person plays, how they play, what they want out of a drum, because they approach it, typically customers approach it like they're buying a ply shell, and it's not like a ply shell. The thicknesses and the bearing edges and things like that all vary so much sonically between ply shells and stave shells and all the different construction methods. A thick stave snare drum is still going to have a lower fundamental pitch than a ply shell of the same thickness, just because the like we were talking about earlier, the woods at rest and all of those things make that fundamental pitch lower. Whereas a ply shell is going to be higher because it's stressed into shape and all of those things, and there's a bunch of glue in it that's all crystallized and stuff. Probably harder than the wood itself, and its stifling resonance. There's tons of different things that we it's a rabbit hole we could go down and talk about every single little
people
detail.
Debate. People debate it. There's points on both sides.
Yeah, I think that everybody's right. A little bit at least about what they think is the best thing. And this is just what we think is the best thing. If that's cool. If you don't like that, then that's okay. You don't have to buy our drums.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yes, precisely. Variety is the spice of life.
Well, thank you guys for coming back on the podcast. I'm sure you guys will be back on for another check-in soon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna get you back in here pretty soon and do a little video for a drum kit build.
Oh yeah, you guys are working on a kit for us right now. So awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on the podcast. If everybody check out Buffalo Drum Company, be sure to follow George's Majestic Lounge at georgeslive.com. There you can see what shows we have coming up. Be sure to follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook at George's Majestic Lounge, and on Twitter at George's Majestic. Thank you to the Buffalo Drum Company. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you guys on the next episode.